Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace and I'd like to welcome you all to my podcast. And here we are to fight CPS and keep your children and get your children back. Um, I usually have a co host. She should be here, um, Danielle, but right now it's just got me. I'd like to go over a couple things first. It's very important that that you interact with this podcast. It's a live podcast from Southern California. And here we are to talk about the child protection system. Now, each state has a branch of social service that deals with the protection for children through neglect and abuse and do family reunification. It's very important that you understand that CPS isn't what it is on paper. And I'm telling that from experience because I was involved in CPS. I've been fighting them for 14 years. And it's sad to say that they've grown worse. They take your children when they're not in danger, imminent danger. They take your children no matter what. They also abuse your constitutional and your civil rights. They don't care about them. They don't care about them. And so, with that being said, I want you to know that as a person, I'm a loving man, a father, a husband, and I really care about you people. And that's why I'm on this show to help you all to deal with your CPS matters the best I can. I'm not an attorney, but I have experience. I'm talking over to 500 people from around the country, all 50 states. The common thing is that they take your children because they come to your home and you don't know the law, that you do not have to let them in your home. You don't even have to talk to them. It's best to say yes, no answers, and give every little information because they'll use that against you. Take them seriously. Be courteous. They are really, uh, their mentality is thinking about money. Money is what drives CPS. They get $20,000 per child per month to take your children to open a CPS case. As long as it's open and your child reaches 18, they'll still keep collecting. They'll collect. And even at 18, they still try to interfere with mothers. I have my co-host who has a son who turned 18 in the system, and they're still trying to keep him. He's a special needs child. He's a special needs child. Um, it's important when you. There's three ways you can interact with the show. One way is that you can text in with your comments, with your CPS questions. We all deal with CPS. Please show your name, city, state, or country, and be complete with your CPS case. It's important that you tell me the whole case, the number of children, the ages, if there's a parent involved, if it's two parents or whatever. These are all help for me to help you because you're in a really tough situation. They are definitely very hard because there's no one that controls them, no accountability. In fact, I want you all to think of a mental picture. Picture 8 social workers with pink t-shirts on that say the words on the front, professional kidnappers. And on the back, they say, parents, where are you? Where are your children? Parents, they say, where are your children? With that being said, it's very, very scary because that's the mentality that they have. That's the mentality that they have. They're really, they're very deceitful. And I'm sorry to say that. Hi, Faye. Good morning, Faye. Welcome to see you. Welcome to see you. Um, I'm going to put my phone number here. Um, that is the number to call in with your comments. I mean, that's another way. I'm sorry. You can call in and talk about your CPS case live on the show. I'll put you on speakerphone. It's 626-698-0990. 626-698-0990. And you can talk on the show. Um, so, what are you up to, Faye, this morning? What are you up to? Are you feeling better? Are you taking good care of? Faye has a really tough situation. She lives in Richmond, Kentucky, and the police are after her. They stalk her and try to do nothing else to help her. Good morning, Lori Hiller. Good morning, Williams McKillen. I'm so glad to see you, Lori. I know she's on my show every day. She doesn't say anything, but she listens. And thank you for following. I assume that Williams is her son that she's lost or something. I don't know. Um, Let me see if I can get a hold of Danielle, but she should be on by now. So let me see. I'm going to say if she's going to come on. Uh, well, okay. I just text Danielle to see if she's coming on. I was hoping she would. Let me see where she's at here. Oh boy. Hmm. October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Man, I've been doing this now for 8 months. 8 months and talked to over 500 people in all the states. So it's definitely um, so. Uh, the second way is you call in. Now, a more easy way, maybe you don't want to talk at this time, you can email my producer, Grace. And her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentwdavis.com. And she can schedule to be one of my 14 podcasts. Um, as I say, I'm on from 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for an hour. I'm on in the afternoon on the evening at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for an hour. The only exception on Sunday, I start at 8 instead of 10 in the morning. Um, I'd love to have you on the show as a guest, and we can talk about your case. Now, before I go much further, I want to thank Vincent W. Davis, our attorney at Vincent W. Davis Associates, produced this podcast. And you can always call him at 888-888-6582. And he says that if you want to call him for help, um, he will try to help you. I'll be talking a little bit about Well, I should talk about rule number one, and that's a very important rule. Now, um, I'm glad you feel a little bit better, Faye. Um, Faye, is my voice coming through loud and clear? Can you hear me okay? Too much background noise or not? I want to make sure everybody's hearing me okay. Um, good, good. Okay. Um, the rule number one in my book of rules is something that I really ignored in my case. My case started in 2015. It took me a year before I realized I could not fight them on my own, and I definitely could not use the court-appointed attorney. That court-appointed attorney is really bad news. That's something you don't want to really deal with because they have a caseload of 30 clients. They only will talk to you the time of your hearing. They won't meet you ahead of time. They're very limited in what they do, even if you ask them to do things. Remember, when you're in court, you cannot speak to the judge if you have an attorney. If you want to represent yourself, you can do so by relieving the court appointed attorney. Approach the bench and say, Your Honor, I do not want my court appointed attorney. I want to represent myself. I'm in the process of looking for a professional attorney, and you could get a continuance of your case. You can ask for a continuance of your case to get that attorney. So, talking about finding an attorney, that's the hardest thing to find. It really is. Um, Especially if you guys are low income or, middle class is considered low income. I don't want to talk about anything. I know what it is to have no money. I know what it is to be homeless. In my case, I had a beautiful $2 million home, and the CPS and made me sell my home to fight to get my kids back. They stole my home. They stole my livelihood. I was 65 at the time, and I had worked a good 45 years of hard work to get my home. And that is one of my sad tragedies, is they're very evil. Yes, I do have a grudge against them. I do have a grudge against them. But I've seen no recourse. I've talked to another social worker who came on my show, and she talked for 40 minutes. She was pleasant. She was nice to talk to, but she painted a different picture. She was appalled at what I was saying. And I said, well, I don't mean to be bad because we do need CPS. But when you have those 8 social workers in Prescott, Arizona, wearing pink T-shirts that said we're professional child care kidnappers, and on the back they say parents were your children, that makes me wonder. And all the cases I've talked to, as I say, I've only talked to one social worker, have all been negative. They've all been taking their children. So to get an attorney and you're low income, you might want to try pro bono attorney. Now, what you say is a pro bono attorney. They're attorneys that will help you. They may have a lot of cases and they want to have some additional time to help other people that can't afford one. So to find an attorney, you have to word your search on the internet correctly. It's very important that you start off with find in, and you want to list the city or the county you're in, and then the closest big one. So if you're in a small city, you need to add a bigger city. So let's say you're in Harrison, Texas, and the next big city is Dallas, Texas. So you ask, find in Harrison and Dallas, Texas, a pro bono family law attorney. And you're going to get a list of names, and hopefully it'll be a list of maybe 20 names, 25 names. You only need to pick 10, and you scan through them and you see which one of the 10 represents what you're looking for. Then you got to make phone calls to those 10 attorneys. You got to determine some things. You got to ask them questions. Do you do pro bono work? That's very important. Also, when you call the answer, then you know the place is in business. A lot of the numbers may be bogus. So you determine they're in business. They said yes, they do pro bono. Then you want to ask them, do they fight CPS cases? The answer is yes, that's a good sign. And have they got children back in CPS cases? That's important too. Do they know about dependency court? Have they fought in dependency court? Some people tell me there are two kinds of attorneys. Ones that fight in dependency courts, ones are family law attorneys. But I think a family law attorney, if you're looking, so Fine and Harrison and Dallas, Texas, a pro bono family law attorney. If you want to put dependency attorney, fine. But I think family law would be sufficient. And then you got that list going, and you're going through calling each one and writing down information about them. You found out they do CPS cases, they have gotten children back, they are pro bono, they're open for business. And then you can ask them, what is their consultation fee? Okay, what is the consultation fee? Now, our attorney, Vincent Davis, um, his consultation fee is 30 minutes for $60, $2 a minute. And that's real reasonable. So that might give you a gauge. Now you call those 10 people, and now you want to consult those 10 people. Not 10 people, but you want to pick 5. So you pick out 5 of the best that gave you answers. Let Vincent Davis be one of the 5. He's a fighter. He has 35 years of experience of fighting CPS and getting your children back. He's a trial attorney. He is compassionate. He has podcasts. You can see him on there. And he will help you for 30 minutes for $60. All you do is call in 888-888-6582, or at the bottom of my screen, I have a ticket scrolling. And you go on the internet, the whole thing, you say, type in consultation with attorney Vincent Davis, care of Bob Pace, Cality.com/law office of Vincent, VWD/Bob Pace. And when you call in and you say Bob Pace sent you, and then when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. So it's really, really important. So there you go. You got your list of 5 now. You're going to make your call. One of them's going to be Vincent Davis, and you'll feel a lot more better. I didn't call him, and I tried to fight the director of the CPS system. And my case was in Orange County, and it was very sad. It was very, very, very sad. Because he worked in a building that was way too much money. I could see where all the money spent. It looked like the Taj Mahal in India. And on top of that, it was green like the Emerald City of Oz. So that being said, it was really, really sad there. So I did fight the CPS person. And with that being said, that was useless. It went in one ear, went out the other ear. When I met with him, he had so much gold around his neck that he almost fell over. He almost fell over. And so I want you all to try to get an attorney, a real attorney, because they did help me get my kids back. Now, another reason why you want to get to yourself an attorney, not because a court-appointed attorney are bad, but also it's like open heart surgery. Can you imagine yourself opening up your chest with a scalpel and try to reach in and work on your heart? Or maybe have a plumber or auto mechanic do it, or another layperson. You always would get a professional doctor to work on your heart, and that's what CP is. You need a professional attorney. someone that can navigate in the system and knows how to fight CPS. Because CPS, picture yourself as Alice in Wonderland, and you fall in a rabbit hole in your back garden. In this rabbit hole, you um, encounter all these doors that go nowhere, all these rooms that tell you nothing, off with your head and whatever. I mean, it's crazy because CPS is a spider who is weaving you in and going to be wrapping you up in their web and lock you in and take your children. They traffic your children. They don't just kidnap your children. They traffic your children because they put them in foster care. They're the only entity that can do it legally. It's against the law to traffic children. It's against the law to alienate children, and they do alienate children. They'll pitch you against your kids against you. They do not talk to you at all. Um, your children are kept where they are in foster care, and they have no communication except you're visiting. And when you visit, you can't talk about the case. They don't follow their own rules. They don't like family unification. And they're going to have a plan that's going to put you through all kinds of hell. It really is a bad situation. Um, I know from experience because I was duped. For 5 years, they were constantly harassing me. And what I found out later, it was my in laws that when they heard me lose my job in 2010, they said, "Oh, here's a good reason we can take their kids." My wife's parents and sisters and brothers were against her. In fact, we later found out through my wife recollect of how much she was abused as a child by her parents. They should have been the ones reported to social services. As a punishment, they put hot water on her or hot coffee. That was wrong. Also, one time she was thrown in the water and she couldn't swim, and they turned their back, and she was drowning. She was drowning. Then her brother exposed himself and molested her, and she tells her parents they do nothing. Then she's going to a concert at the age of 15, and um, she's too young. And her sister, who's 18, didn't watch her at the concert. And she went to the bathroom, and when she came out, she got lost coming back. And these guys saw her and then took her up the hills and raped her during the concert. It was terrible. It was terrible. She had the child, but she gave the child for adoption. He later came back at age 20. He's now 46, but he's turned out to be a remarkable man. So, you know, she's happy she did that. Of course, she got raped another time, a date rape, and she had her second child. It's so sad. It really is that she was so abused, and her parents did nothing. Her sister, by the way, is a social worker, and she's the one that's been calling into the social worker in our area and making up stories that weren't true, such as we weren't feeding the kids, we didn't take them to school, we didn't bathe them, we didn't pay the utility bills. I had the social workers in my home. At that time, I didn't know they're allowed to go in there, but I had nothing to hide. They saw the refrigerator with plenty of food. It's a $2 million home, so you can't pretty much screw up a $2 million home. I mean, it had a pool, and it had a safety fence around the pool, safety locks the doors. But, it's like the constant harassment. For 5 years, I'd get phone calls once a week. Oh, so and so. And see, the problem is, okay, we got somebody calling in. Hello, this is Bob.
Hey, it's Faye.
Yeah, hi Faye, how you doing?
I'm good.
Well, I'm glad that you're talking okay. I put you on speakerphone so everybody can hear you. And you're from Richmond, Kentucky. Any new development, Faye?
Yeah. No, just dealing with this issue with trying to get the police to stop harassing my son.
Well, how? I mean, you were telling me the other day that your son was walking across a college university and he tripped and fell on his flip flops, and the police at the university were very rude to him.
Oh, they were more than rude. They treated him like he was committing some kind of crime, and they tried to detain him, put him in handcuffs, tried to pull their guns on him and stuff, and it was a whole big ordeal simply because he was walking a little bit outside the crosswalk when he fell. And they tried to say, well, he was jaywalking. Okay, jaywalking's not a crime. It's simply a violation. It's a ticketable violation. I'm like, and you all tried to detain him, try to make him give his ID to you, and he simply didn't refuse to give his ID. He just was trying to tell you he didn't have an ID. And
Yeah.
I mean, they really put him through it over nothing. And then at the end of it, I was on the phone with him, and I asked the officer, I said, so, okay, since he committed this violation or this crime you say he's committed by simply not walking in a crosswalk, then are you going to cite him for it or not? Well, no, we're not. Well, why wouldn't you cite him for it? If he did something wrong, you would cite him for it, right?
Yes, yes. That's one thing I've learned. Anytime you're involved with the police, you really don't want to talk to them, and you can tell them very nicely. I say, either write me a citation or arrest me, but I need to speak to my attorney. And
Yeah.
that way, if I had said that in my case, I don't think I would ever have been forced to go to my home. Because the police detective that had a local police pull me over on an allegation that wasn't true, it was fabricated, was only to stop me and then convince me to follow the detective. And I should have said at the time I was pulled over, either give me the ticket for running the stop sign or arrest me, but I'm not going to my house. I'm going to speak to my attorney first. I have a right to speak to my attorney.
Right. Well, when I cited that there was no stop and identify law in Kentucky, and that not walking in a crosswalk was not a crime, it was only a violation.
Right. It's a ticket.
The
It's a
police,
ticket. Yes, you're right.
and that they had no right to detain him and put him in handcuffs, and they didn't. They had no right. They the police officer that was talking to me on the phone after my son called because he was so upset about what they were doing to him and everything. Instead of her handing it made her upset that I actually caught her up in her crap. So instead of her handing the phone back to my son, she swung it at him and slammed his phone down on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is an ethics violation on her part and was very unprofessional aside from everything else she did.
Did you try to ever talk to the police chief?
I did. I'm still waiting to hear back from them on it. They said they was going to view the cameras, this, that, and the other. But you know how that goes. If they do find something on the camera, I'm pretty sure they'll delete it.
Did they? Did you? Do they have assistant police chief in Richmond, Kentucky?
They do, and I called all of them to speak with them about the situation, and I'm just giving them time to get back to me because during the incident when this happened, this was right around the college graduation and all of that, so they've all been kind of busy. So I'm just giving them time to get back to me.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And now you say you've been talking to your politicians, right?
Senators and representatives here in Kentucky, yeah.
And how responsive have your senators been in Kentucky?
Well, we've actually gotten good responses from some of them, and then some of them are just wanting to pass the buck. But we've made a lot of appearances at the Capitol here in Kentucky, And we've opened a lot of eyes to people that had no clue and no idea what was going on in the family courts and the CPS agencies here in Kentucky.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have clues. I mean, it's really. I wish there's somehow we would have to lobby to get on the Congress to have a special. A couple weeks ago, they had they had all the CEOs of all the social um, internet um, companies in Congress to explain to what protective measures they're taking with their teenagers or children from the internet. And it was interesting
Mm-hmm.
because they allowed each CEO. There was Elon Musk. There was the guy from Facebook. I forgot his name, Strawberger or whatever,
Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberger. And then there was TikTok. There was Instagram. There was Telegraph, which is one of the newer ones. Um, there's, let me see who else they had. They had Twitter. They,
Mm-hmm.
so they had all these people, and it's so interesting because the senators were kind of missing the whole buck. Because, and I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are, it's the parents that should be watching the kids on the
Yep.
internet. It's like we give them
Yep.
phones at the sixth grade, and I had someone on my podcast here argue about me about saying that, I said there's no need to give them a phone with internet capabilities. You can get phones that are phone only for your young kids to
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
You don't need to get the ones with the internet because the internet has a dark side, as you probably know. The internet is so full of pornography and sex
Yep.
and dark
Yep.
sides and people being
Completely
seduced,
agree with you. Completely
you know.
agree with you.
And so
Yep.
I think parents should, until the child's 18, monitor the use of the social media. I mean,
Yep.
all social media should have something that if a child is under 18, they have to get permission from their parents to have an account with them.
Yep.
And if
And,
they
and
had, if they,
parents have the ability. They
yeah,
have the ability to put uh, parental controls on a computer and on a phone and
yes,
even on the TVs at home.
right,
It's
you
just a
can
matter
do
of them
that. There are
doing it.
parental controls, and as parents, you're being irresponsible if you think I'm stupid about wanting to protect our children because,
No,
where I live,
you're correct.
I live in the highest place for trafficking. My
Yeah,
city
you're
is
correct.
number one in child trafficking because it's very rich, well-to-do people, and there's these container ships. I'm right near the port of Long Beach, the port of LA, and I live in a beach coastal community south of Long Beach and Seal Beach, and so I see these cases where the van will pull up, see kids out. Like we had a couple weeks ago at Indiana, where all these young 12 and 13-year-old middle school kids were shooting guns at each other, and it just makes me
Mm,
think it's not just California or Kentucky or South Dakota, where it's all over. And that's what I'm trying to
yep,
tell you is that we as parents got to be responsible for our kids on the social network.
right.
That's something that really there because they'll be kidnapped. I mean, when you have an agency like CPS that does kidnapping already, you don't want any more kidnapping out there. I mean, it's bad enough. And um, with that being said, I just it's the parents. Now those pink ladies from Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, that wears a shirt that says on the back, "Parents, you know where your kids are." That's the
Mm,
mentality of CPS. That is mentality. They're professional
yep,
kidnappers. They have on the front, and I see that
yep,
all the time. And I try to tell people, think of CPS as that because until I met that one person, you were abreast of that. The girl from Maryland, and I had her name. I still have her name, and she talked for 40 minutes. And you think maybe she was just a plant trying to um, stalk
yeah,
you
the
or
social
something.
worker. Yeah, she was a social worker, and I
Were you on that call, by the way?
huh?
Were you on that call, by the way?
Uh, what do you mean? Like
When the
when she was
social
on?
worker was on, were you on?
No.
Yeah.
I came on the next night after she had been on.
Yeah.
But see,
I would have loved
the night
for you to be
before,
on that. I'd love you to be on that.
yeah, the night before she went on there, she went on my page and attacked me, and I know it was her. I know it for a fact it was her because she referenced your show when she was attacking me on my page. And then after she attacked me on my page, then all of a sudden you have a social worker that shows up on your show. I mean, come on, it's not rocket science.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I'm trying to find her name. You see, I wrote it down, but of course, let me do a search
What's
here.
her fake name? She ain't gonna give you her real name that way.
No,
So,
but she gave a name in Maryland. She gave a name in Maryland,
yeah,
so we could put her name
yeah,
and
but
search Maryland, you know.
yeah, I highly doubt she gave you her real name. They never do. They never do. One thing you need to know about social workers is a lot of them have their regular social worker Facebook page that they have that a lot of times it won't say where they work for, but sometimes it does. Especially if they don't care about people knowing that they work for social services, they'll proudly display it.
Yeah, I
But
want
then
you to
you've
write
got
down.
ones that,
I was going to say,
huh?
I want you to write down the name. It's Jen Caron, Caron. Jen, Jenn, Karen.
Okay, Jen, and then what was the last name?
Caron.
Jen Caroline. Okay. Okay. Jen Caroline. Okay. I'll look it up. But you know, a lot of these social workers they have probably 5 or 6 different spy pages with different names so that they can go on people's pages. They have cases and they can spy on their pages and look and see what they're putting on their Facebook pages. See, I was smart when I had my case. I had a whole separate page from what my basic name is on Facebook, so they didn't know I had to.
Yeah, she let me see here. She has a Lincoln account which I have. Sometimes people
Uh-huh.
are kind of a bit stupid there. I say, who's the head of DHS? It's called Department of Health Services, is the CPS there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a Jen Calf, that's not it. I'm trying to look for, I'm looking myself right now. Um,
Mhm.
she is a licensed clinical psychiatrist, but
Okay, I got a Jen Caron Blakely.
CARN.
CARN, yeah. Yeah.
You found one?
I'm just looking up the same stuff that you're looking at. Hold on, I'm just trying to look. Hold on. Let's see. Jen Caron.
She says she has a master in forensic psychology, and she says they do not remove remove children that they are transparent, and they have foster parents that are paid. They go through academy for 6 months, state train requirements.
And this is in what state?
Maryland, Maryland.
Maryland.
She gave
I mean, it could
she
be
gave
different in
hints.
Maryland.
She gave hints. She has a clinical psychology degree. Um, she said that she's a case manager. I don't know if a case manager is the same as a social worker. I think they are. I think it's the terminology they do difference. And they call it Maryland Department of Health Services. I have the director
Mm-hmm.
of the Maryland one, but I really can't complain to him about Jen because she said nothing wrong on the show. She didn't badmouth me or anybody else. And she said that she was quite
Mm-hmm.
surprised. She was very kind, so, you know,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like an awful big coincidence that it could have been somebody else.
yeah. And of course, you're right. She could use a fictitious name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just talked about my rule number one. I keep trying to get better on helping people find a pro bono attorney. Now, in Texas, we found a association of volunteer attorneys in the Texas area, which I thought was great. I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
Um, because, I have one problem on my podcast, almost every podcast. I can't afford an attorney, and I feel so bad for my people out there that I want to help them. And when I type in pro bono, when I do a find and find a family law attorney, I find a list of them. And at my time, when I was involved, I had lost my job, so money was tight. I had mortgage payments. I had $5,000 a month because I had a $2 million home, and because I lost my job, I was able to keep my home for 4 years. I didn't lose my home in 2017. I kept it for 7 years without a job, which I had put away all my savings. But when I had to hire Vincent Davis, I had to sell my home because there was not much equity left in it. And what I did get from selling it, I used him to pay him to get my two boys back. But I'm really trying hard to work out a way of how I can get attorneys to help out these people. You know, just because they're middle class or low, I don't think we have a middle class anymore. I think we're more like a third world country. We have the poor and the rich. I don't think middle class
Yeah.
exists anymore because if you are middle class, you can't afford things. I just been just the other day, I just noticing like milk is $5 a gallon. It went from $3.50 to $5. Bananas is 70
Yeah.
cents. It's just bread is $2. I mean, I used to be able to feed a family, and like now I only have about $120 to feed my family for a week, a family of four for a week, and it's hard with $120 to feed them.
This
And
definitely is. I mean,
so without a
man,
job, I'm trying to get a job. My problem is that when you get my age, they don't want to give you jobs because they don't want to deal with an old
I
person.
understand.
They don't want to, and I'm
Yeah,
talking about
I
a career
understand.
job, a job that pays me. Because up until I lost my job, I was making $250,000 a year, and I had three kids, and we would
Yeah.
go to Disneyland every day, and we had season passes. And unfortunately, when I lost all that, my in-laws wanted our children. Uh-oh, did I lose you? No, I just
No,
had.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I have a
Can you
timeout on
hear
my
me?
phone. Yes, I have a timeout on my phone. It's not a timeout. It's what do you call it? It's a screensaver.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is good. Um, so one of my goals is to somehow work up a way of getting attorneys for these people that need help. Also, we need to give word out that you need to get help right away. The day that you are investigated is the day you should talk about an attorney. It should be no thinking at all. You should right away contact an attorney because that first couple weeks are really important because once they get you into the system, they will swallow you. They will take you in.
Yep.
And so
True.
I'm trying to do that. Now, I have this rule number 2 that I've expanded a little bit, which is the paperwork rule. And I'm telling people to get a 3-inch to 6-inch 3-ring binder. And the reason why I'm talking about something so big like that is because, um, you have a lot of information and having it in post-it notes or piled all over in different boxes and stuff. It's not. You have to be organization with your paperwork. And so I tell people to get that, stuff it full of college rule notebook paper, which already has the holes punched, and then get your dividers, subject dividers. And then I tell them that the incidents, all the incidents that you have, you need to list them in chronicle date, the time and the date. So if the date is today the 15th, you put the 15th and you put the time. Then you put the people that were involved with that incident. There may be policemen, social workers, children, parents, or whatnot, family, friends, whatever. So you got to put them all with that. You basically,
Right.
um, put the incidents in, and then the next line, you type in what the incident is about, and then the next couple lines, you type in what the outcome. And the outcome is not necessarily always happens right away. It may take 1 or 2 months, maybe 6 months to resolve something. But then you put that down. Then you skip a couple lines and do the next incident, and use highlighters. Pink and yellow are good to highlight certain key points that you want to come back to or show your attorney or to help you with your fighting that. And so that is one subject. Another subject tab would be all your parenting classes, all your programs that you take, all your drug tests. They're free there. You put them there. Maybe seeing a doctor visits or something for your children. So many people are saying uh, that their child is supposedly in physical abuse, but they have doctors from their own pediatrician that said there is no signs of physical abuse. So you put all that in the second subject thing, and you can you can call it your classes or whatever you want to call that subject matter. And then the third one, third tab is all your websites, all your information, your senators, representatives, phone numbers of people. You put all that, on that there. And then you got the rest of the stuff to divide it up further with your subject. But I tell people you need to start this at the beginning. I didn't do it. I didn't do it later. And now I regret it because there's things I could have done. Things I could have done. So that's my rule number 2 if you want to, because power is knowledge. The more you investigate, the more you search online, the more power you have with CPS. Because you're fighting an adversary that has full advantage. They don't care about your civil rights or your constitutional rights. They are allowed to do what they want. They can use police as intimidation, and police have become really bad lately because the other day a policeman, and this leads me into rule number 3. This policeman knocked on the door, and when it was open, he shot the guy dead right away. And I'm telling people, do
Wow.
not open the door. This guy was 24 years old. He had graduated from high school, entered the Air Force, and he was an airman. And he was a veteran, He was talking to his girl on FaceTime. Apparently, there's some disturbance in the apartment complex, and it's a well-to-do apartment complex. You had to have a key to get in, and so the sheriff went to um, the office, got the person who led to where he had gotten a call that there's some disturbance. Now, maybe the young man was arguing with his girlfriend. We don't know yet. I don't know what the disturbance was, but they think it was the wrong address. But then the police chief is saying, no, my officer was at the right address. It's still being investigated. But the rule here, like I'm telling with people with physical, is picture yourself open the door and the policeman shoots first. Now, he did a tactic that I don't think is really good. First of all, he knocked on the door and said nothing. Now, he's asking for something. If someone's behind the door with a gun, he's going to shoot through the door and kill the policeman. So the policeman should, you know, first attempt to call the address or call the number that the person lives there. I mean, policemen have access to phone numbers. They say they don't, but they do. And all they have to do is they have the name or whatever it is. They don't have a name. Then they need to look around the
Well,
apartment
did
and stuff.
did the did the police have a reason to come to his address? Was there a warrant or
No,
something?
there was a disturbance, and the manager of the apartment complex said she wasn't sure if this was where the disturbance was. Someone had called it a disturbance. And again, I don't have all the details because I was not there investigating. The only reason why I'm bringing this
So
case
for
up is telling people don't open the door. In fact, what the policeman should do, he should say, if someone's behind that door, please unlock the door, put your hands behind your head, and lay face down. Well, the guy did. The guy came to the door with a gun at his side, and he had a right to carry the gun, but his gun was not cocked or pointed towards the door. But the policeman, instead of shooting the guy in the foot or tell him to drop the gun, he shot first. And of course, policemen know one thing: they know how to kill, but they don't know how to maim somebody. And you will think if they're an expert marksmanship, they know how to shoot you in the foot or the hand or some less body part that won't kill the person. And they're saying, well, our life is on the line. Yeah, you're wearing a bulletproof vest. You can stand to the side of the door. You don't have to be facing the door. You see, the door opened, he was facing the door. He could have been to the side of the door when the door opened and slowly looked around. Slowly looked around. But anyway, the rule here is you do not open the door to anybody because it can kill you. I mean, it could be a CPS worker or a policeman with the CPS worker, but you don't have to. And furthermore, they can reach you by phone. And if they want to bust the door down, if they can hear a crime in progress, they will do so. They'll bust the door down if there's a crime in progress. But we have this young man talking to his fiancee on FaceTime in Florida, living a productive life. And again, when more details are come out, I'll find more. But I see no justification in shooting the guy dead. I see no justification. And the same thing goes for you all out there. Do not open the door. Now, if they have a warrant, they can show the warrant to a side window and you can read the warrant through the glass. But you got to make sure you know who's out there. My best thing is whether they have a warrant or not, don't answer the door. They'll leave a card and they'll come back later. If you walk outside and they're outside, then don't let them in your house. See the warrant, and then you can let them inside if the warrant says that they can come inside. But like me, a fool, I was intimidated by the detective. I fall into my home, and then there was 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, not one, but 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective all in my front yard. So it looked like a crime was taking place. And I guess it was their frustration for 5 years of not of trying to see if there's something wrong there. They could have written me a letter. They could have asked me to come down to the CPS. I think it's best to do that. So with that rule number 3, I want all my listeners out there to not open the door, do not talk to the policeman, do not talk to a social worker, You can tell them the easy way to get out of the conversation is I need to talk to my attorney. When they hear you got an attorney, they'll back off. They're thinking you don't know the law or don't have an attorney. But you allow representation anytime you're confronted by a social worker or by a policeman. You're allowed representation present. And so, and you can tell another thing too, if you're approached by a policeman, either give me the ticket for the violation or arrest me for the crime.
Right, exactly.
And I should have
Or
known
else
that.
it's harassment.
Yeah, and don't harass me. And that goes for um, the medical trafficking that's taking place, Faye. Medical trafficking is
Uh-huh.
really, really getting bad. Um, Parents
It's been
will
bad
take
for
their
years.
kids to the hospital, and the doctor will say, "Well, this has to be done," and that. And the parent says, "Well, I want to see my own pediatrician, or I want to see another doctor for opinion." Right away, the hospital staff gets hold of the CPS worker. He comes in, or she, and says, "We're taking your child because you refused medical attention." A parent's not refusing medical attention. They're trying to find a better solution for it, and they have medical rights. And so CPS workers are now working out of the hospital, and they're doing medical trafficking. And furthermore, when a woman has a baby, they're now taking the baby right when they give birth, right from her breast. And it's sad because the policeman and the social worker will march in and think they have the rights. They need a court order, and they can wait in the lobby. In the birthing room should be only the parents. The hospital staff should know that. But it's really been really sad what's happening. So I've covered my three rules with you on that. Maybe there's more things I need to elaborate on, but I want people to understand out there: one, get attorney; two, do your paperwork, keep it organized; three, say no to social workers and police. Don't let them take your children, and don't let them in your home. And then in the hospitals, don't let them take your children. They need a court order, a warrant. Now I have about 3 minutes left, and is there anything else we can talk about, Faye?
I think you pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I always ask your opinion, Faye, because you're a very sweet word. For all you listeners out there, Faye has a tough road ahead of her. She's getting constantly harassed because she's trying to fight CPS like I am. Of course, I don't think I'm being harassed. I don't know. Um, it's been happening lately as I've been lucky so far. So, because I'm sorry the bad mouth social services, but I've yet to hear anything true about them, that there's anything good with them. I'd love to hear a
well,
good story.
well, well. I mean, I don't per se, that social services is just altogether horrible. I think there's good people that work for social services, and I think there's bad people. But unfortunately, the bad people outweighs the good ones, and the ones that generally are good don't stay.
Yeah, yeah, I concur with you.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, I concur with you. Well,
Yeah. I think there's good and bad in every profession. There's good cops, there's bad cops. There's good social workers, there's bad social workers. But unfortunately, the bad ones make the good ones look bad too. And generally, the good ones will eventually end up leaving because they don't want, to have their good name and their moral set and everything that they've worked hard for tarnished by the bad ones.
yep. Well, Faye, I gotta close our show. I want to thank you because you're a lifesaver. Because I enjoy talking with people. We didn't have too many people text a message in. I had Lori Hiller that she's been on my show every day, but she's been a silent one, and I hope that I can help out Lori. And she puts the name William Mullins in there, and I don't know if that's her son or daughter or what there. I think with the name William, it's a boy. But I want to thank
Yeah.
all the people that are the silent people. There's a lot of you out there. Thank you for your emojis, your hearts and your thumbs up and smiley faces. I enjoy hearing the input about that. But I'll be on again at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time this evening, and I hope to see you all there. God bless you all. God bless you, uh, Faye. And this is Bob Pace signing off.
Bye bye.
And bye bye,